Hello, everybody. It's me, Ian Rodriguez, with the 28-day Gospel of Matthew challenge. Today, we are day 15. So you are over the halfway mark today. So yesterday, we got to see the two huge miracles, right, that Jesus performs. One of them was feeding the 5,000, and then the next was walking on water. And Peter also, while he was looking at Jesus and not at his feet, was able to also walk and stand on the water as well. And so now we are in chapter 15, starting in verse 1. It says, after that, Pharisees and religious scholars came to Jesus all the way from Jerusalem, criticizing, why do your disciples play fast and loose with the rules? So now these religious leaders are now coming to Jesus and they're like, okay, why do your disciples not follow the rules? Meaning that they heal people on the Sabbath, they eat on the Sabbath, right? And this isn't the first time that Jesus is confronted about his disciples sort of not abiding in this rigid religious system anymore. Because we even know that John the Baptist, his disciples came and asked Jesus almost the very same thing. Why do your disciples not fast while we rigorously fast the way that we do? And so he was responding to them saying, the bridegroom is with them right now and they are learning some things. And then you've put all these regulations and made them as though God has said them. And actually, God didn't say that at all. And so he's now going to have to address this with the Pharisees and the religious scholars who come to him and ask this question. But Jesus put it right back on them. He says, why do you use your rules to play fast and loose with God's commands? Wow. He said, God clearly says, respect your father and mother, and anyone denouncing father or mother should be killed. This is how plain the commandments were from Moses, the things that they believed, the things that he's saying even you as Pharisees believe. But you're not even doing that. You don't even honor your own father and mother. And it says that anybody who doesn't do that, anybody who denounces, dishonors their father and mother, wishes them dead in any way, shape, or form should actually be killed. But you weasel around that by saying whoever wants to can say to father and mother, what I owe to you, I've given to God. Wow. He's saying that you have decided that if a person wants to be ugly, dishonoring to their parents, but says this, oh, I'm going to go ahead and give what I should be giving to my father and my mother. If they are in need or in lack, I should be giving it to them. But instead, I'm going to give it to God instead. And in that way, they have twisted the rules and they have now dishonored their father and their mother. And it says you're doing the exact same thing, if not worse, because you are now twisting the rules for your own convenience. You're twisting them so that you don't have to do the bare minimum that God has required of you. And especially in regards to other people. And then you say that you're doing it for God when you're really not doing it for God at all. You're doing it to get out of whatever God has said that you're supposed to do. So he says that can hardly be called respecting a parent. You cancel God's command by your rules. Whoa. You're canceling out what God has said you were supposed to do just by doing what you think, now changing the rules. You have now canceled God's rule. It says frauds, hypocrites. Isaiah's prophecy of you hit the bullseye. It says these people make a big show of saying the right thing, but their heart isn't in it. So you're just all lip service. You're just saying stuff, but really God knows your heart. They act like they're worshiping me, but they don't mean it. You say that you're not going to give to your father and mother, not because you really want to give it to God, but because you want to get out of doing something else. It says they just use me as a cover for teaching whatever suits their fancy. So he's saying all you do is twist the rules, bend the rules any way you want, and then you throw some scripture on it, or you say, oh, I was doing it for the Lord. When the Lord knows good and well you weren't doing it for him, you were doing it for yourself. He says you're a hypocrite. And that word hypocrite is a play actor, meaning all you're doing is performing. All you are essentially in the kingdom is a liar, because what you're saying out of your mouth is not what's really, truly in your heart. He says, then he called the crowd together and said, listen and take this to heart. Whoa. Here's a heart posture. It's not what you swallow that pollutes your life, but what you vomit up. In your version, it may say it's not what goes into the mouth that pollutes or defiles or dishonors a man, but what comes out of his mouth. Now, why? Because what we put in, right? What we put in doesn't necessarily defile you. When what he's talking about is what you eat, what you're consuming, okay, through your mouth, the food that you're eating. But what's in your heart is being exposed through your mouth. And he's going to talk a little bit about this and give them some more insight on that, because somebody doesn't quite get what he's saying. It says, later the disciples came and told him, did you know how upset the Pharisees were when they heard what you said? They're like, did you not see these people? They don't like you. They hate what you're saying to them. They hate being confronted in this way. Are you recognizing that some of the things you're saying are really ruffling their feathers? And Jesus shrugged it off. He says, every tree that wasn't planted by my Father in heaven will be pulled up by its roots. Ouch. Forgive them. They are blind men leading blind men. The blind leading the blind. When a blind man leads a blind man, they both end up in a ditch. Wow. Peter said, I don't get it. Put it in plain language. Poor Peter here. Because he is about to really receive some instruction from Jesus. Jesus replied, you too? You too, Peter? Don't tell me, Peter, that you're not understanding what I'm saying here. He says, are you being willfully stupid? Whoa. Don't you know that anything that is swallowed works its way through the intestines and is finally defecated? But what comes out of the mouth gets its start in the heart. That's what I was just saying. See, we put things in, right? We put food in. He wasn't talking about food that you vomit out in that way. No, it's what you're saying that is like vomit that's coming out of somebody's mouth. And what it exposes, what? The heart. It's from the heart that we vomit up evil arguments, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, lies, and cussing. That's what's coming out of your mouth is revealing your heart posture. It's revealing evil arguments that you have to fight, right? You care more about being right than being in relationship, or you're casting hate and you're speaking death over yourself or other people. And that's a murderous tongue when we slander and gossip. Adulteries, when we're talking about other people, how they look, and creating lustful ways of thinking, and fornicating when we're not married and we're talking this way. When we're stealing, lying, and cussing. You know where all of this comes from? From the father of lies. Who is that? The devil. So it reveals who your true father is. If your heart has not been transformed into a heart of flesh and is still a heart of stone, then it's going to talk like this. And everything that comes out of your mouth is going to expose the way that your heart truly is and your heart posture towards the Lord. He says that's what pollutes. Eating or not eating certain foods, washing or not washing your hands, that's neither here nor there. It's like, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the rituals, okay, of washing and not washing, or having dirty hands and eating your food and then you get food poisoning or what. He's not talking about food poisoning. He's talking about the posture of the heart, that our heart is exposed by what we say and what comes out of here. Healing the people. From there, Jesus took a trip to Tyre and Sidon, and they had hardly arrived when a Canaanite woman came down from the hills and pleaded, "Mercy, Master, Son of David, my daughter is cruelly afflicted by an evil spirit." A Canaanite woman is coming and she's saying that her daughter is demonized, or in this instance, probably possessed. And I want you to understand just really quickly that the Canaanite people, they were actually heathen. They actually did a lot of witchcraft. They are actually an enemy. They were the ones the Israelites fought, okay, were the Canaanite people. And so they had a lot of witchcraft and idolatry in their nation, in their culture, and how they did things. And this woman now is coming. She understands something here, that her daughter is possessed by a demon. And so she knows that the only healing she can receive is from Jesus. And this is a huge risk that she's taking. It's a very risky move. But I want you to understand that this young girl and this woman had grown up around all of this Satanism, all this heathen way of living, all of this witchcraft and idolatry, worshiping other gods and everything. So it was no wonder that her daughter was possessed, because this is the way that culture grew up. So who knows exactly what happened to get this young girl in this state. But we do know that this woman now is desperately coming to Jesus for him to heal her daughter. And this is his response. Jesus ignored her. Now, I want you to understand, this may seem very, very harsh. Like, why would Jesus do that? Isn't he? I mean, they're bringing him, droves of people, crowds are around him, and everywhere he goes, he is moved with compassion for the people, healing them of their affliction and their diseases. He is delivering them from their demons. But this woman comes, and she herself probably is still in idol worship or witchcraft of some kind, but she's asking for Jesus's help, and he ignores her. And the disciples came and complained. Now she's bothering us. Would you please take care of us? She's driving us crazy. She's pretty persistent here. That Jesus ignoring her, she doesn't just leave. She doesn't get her little feelers hurt, okay? She doesn't get offended and stomp off. No, she continues to badger the disciples. Heal my daughter. Get Jesus's attention. Please have him come and heal my daughter. She is demon afflicted. And Jesus refused, telling them, I've got my hands full dealing with the lost sheep of Israel. Jesus knew that his assignment was first to who? The people of Israel, God's people. He also knew that he was coming for the Gentiles and those who didn't quite have access, right, to God yet. And they were also getting to come. But honestly, when we're looking at certain cultures and the way they do things, Jesus also understood that there were some people who weren't going to be ready. Jesus wanted to ensure that all of his time and attention while he was here doing ministry for 3 years before the crucifixion would be focused in on God's people. Those who the religious leaders of that time had refused to really teach, had refused to heal, had refused to listen to. He felt, God, I've got my hands full with already what I've got to do here. And here I've got this woman who is a heathen and probably has brought all this on herself because of her culture and the things that she believes, now has her daughter demonized, okay? And so we may see all of this as harsh, but it's factual and it's true. Jesus is responding in a way, and I think it's purposeful, to ensure that this woman really does want freedom for her daughter, and she's not just miracle hungry, okay? That she really does want some type of transformation also that goes with deliverance. Because I'm telling you now, when you get delivered, you've got to also steward your deliverance well. If not, we've already read that when that place is swept clean, those demons circle back around and they see what you filled it with. It would have done her a greater disservice had he done it and not tested it. So I want you to know it's purposeful. Even though it feels harsh, this is all purposeful. That he didn't just turn around and say yes. He had to ensure that this is what she really, really, really wants. For many of us in deliverance, we understand that a person may get so desperate. Yes. Are you desperate enough that when you get your healing and your wholeness, that you're willing then to do what it takes to hold on to your healing and your wholeness? Okay. Then the woman came back to Jesus, went to her knees and begged, Master, help me. He said, it's not right to take bread out of the children's mouths and throw it to dogs. Now, I want you to understand, yes, he is calling her a dog in a sense. This is a way to describe really the way the heathens were viewed at this time. Those who worship other idols and other gods and who function in witchcraft. He was really calling this out of her. Do you see what I'm saying? He's calling this particular demon out, that this is who she served. And so it made her like a dog. And she was quick. You're right, master. But beggar dogs do get scraps from the master's table. Even the dogs who surround themselves at the master's table will get the crumbs that fall off of that table. This is powerful because this is her statement of faith that says, I know that I got things that I'm dealing with, God. I got things that I'm dealing with, Jesus. And I know that I'm not perfect, and I know that I may not understand all of this. But I am desperate for you, and I know you're the only one who can help. You're the only one who can save. And Jesus gave in. Oh, woman, your faith is something else. She didn't relent. She didn't turn tail and run. Even when it got hard and Jesus was ignoring her, Jesus was refusing her, the disciples were sick of her, she stayed persistent in what? Her faith. Her faith that Jesus could do it. And now she would have to be even more persistent than, I believe, to be able to hold on to it after this is done. What you want is what you get. It is done. Right then, her daughter became well. Right then, her daughter became well. A mother stood in the gap for her daughter to be delivered. She was persistent in it. She didn't take up offense. And it says here that she was able to receive even the scraps healed. That's how powerful, I'm telling you, that meal is coming from the master's table. After Jesus returned, he walked along Lake Galilee and then climbed a mountain and took his place, ready to receive visitors. And they came, tons of them, bringing along the paralytic, the blind, the maimed, the mute, all sorts of people in need, and more or less threw them down at Jesus' feet to see what he would do to them. And he healed them. When the people saw the mute speaking, the maimed healthy, the paralytics walking around, the blind looking around, they were astonished and let everyone know that God was blazing alive among them. This is powerful. They brought them and Jesus healed them. Whatever their affliction, they were blind, they could see. They were deaf, they could hear. The maimed became healthy. The paralyzed began to walk. I'm telling you now that this is a reminder to us that this is kingdom. This is the desire of our God to heal and restore us back. And that is his desire for his people, that they are made whole and made well. And Jesus fulfilled God's desire by just healing them of every sickness, illness, and disease, of every demon oppression, and he just did it. You want to know what you should be doing in the kingdom? You think, what is my purpose? This is your purpose. He gives the Great Commission, and this is what we do with our lives. We dedicate our lives to laying hands on the sick and see them recover, that we see those that are demon oppressed, that are demonized, delivered from that oppression. That we see with our own eyes those who cannot walk get up from their wheelchair, get up from their bed. They're no longer bedbound. That's why I still go to the hospitals, because I truly believe that God is in the healing business. I still believe it, and I want to lay hands on those, and I want to give them an encouragement that that's God's greatest desire, is to get them up out of that hospital bed. That is the greatest desire of God still being fulfilled on the earth, and I want to partner and agree with them for their healing. I can only imagine this day. It's beautiful. But Jesus wasn't finished with them. This is so incredible. He called his disciples and said, I hurt for these people. For 3 days now they've been with me, and now they have nothing to eat. I can't send them away without a meal. They'd probably collapse on the road. They haven't eaten so much that they can't even walk anymore. And the disciples says, but where in this deserted place are you going to dig up enough food for a meal? And Jesus asked, how much bread do you have? 7 loaves, they said, plus a few fish. And at that, Jesus directed the people to what? Sit down. We talked about that yesterday. And he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and after giving thanks, he divided it up and took it to the people. He took it to the people this time. He knew that this responsibility fell on him. He had compassion, and he saw that they were hungry. And in this moment, even though the miracle is very similar to the one when he fed the 5,000, Jesus is the one now handing out the meal. Wow. Everyone ate. They had all they wanted. And it took 7 large baskets to collect the leftovers. 7 is a holy number. They had started with 7 loaves of bread, and they end up with 7 large baskets at the end to show that he is the one who is completing the miracle. He is the holy number that is standing before them, completing the miracle. That there are 7 large baskets full of leftovers. Over 4,000 people ate their fill that meal. And remember, when we're doing numbers, we're not counting women and children. So there were more than 5,000. And after Jesus sent them away, he climbed in the boat and crossed over to the Magadan Hills. What a powerful 2 days of miracles. I love this because it's so similar to him feeding the 5,000. And I believe Matthew is the only one who takes account to them feeding the 4,000. It's very, very similar here. Jesus is actually doing this repetitively for a reason, and we'll find out what that is tomorrow. So everything is purposeful that Jesus did. And he healed them, and he wanted them to know that he truly could meet every physical need that they have. Even feeding them. Can you imagine being that hungry that you can't even walk? I think sometimes we don't recognize that. But as our team has gone out and actually fed the homeless, we actually pack, lunch or dinner, and we actually take it to them. We don't have them come anywhere to get it. We actually drive around and we hand out the food. That a lot of those people, they are weak from not being able to eat, especially those that live out in the elements. They live outside behind trash cans or beside filling stations and gas stations. Their bodies are actually, even though all they're really doing is sitting there all day, because they don't eat and because really they don't have a lot of movement around, they are physically weakened. That they're not going to be able to really move from those places. You see them when we go around, there's people that's just their home now. And Jesus is saying these people are probably so hungry they'll collapse along the way trying to get to the next city to eat. That's how hungry they are. And he's saying to his disciples, I can meet that need too. Not only heal them, not only restore them completely, not only will they walk again, hear again, see again, be whole again, but they're going to eat again. And somebody needs that encouragement, I'm telling you. And he shows us very simply in this gospel, when you see a need, you meet a need. You trust that God will multiply your very little bit. And not only are we conduits of healing and wholeness, but we have the ability to feed. See you tomorrow, friends.